Hey guys, Sublong Name here. So, when I try to get new people into the game, there comes a point where the default settings just don't do it, you know? The one speed, the default background, the judgment, the everything. I usually come up to them and I try to change their note speed. And they're like, whoa, I'm not that good yet. I don't want my note speed to be fast, okay? I'm not good. I find that pretty funny because it seems like a lot of beginners have a misconception about what note speed is and how it affects your game. So just to get it out of the way, note speed changes the speed of your note, but it doesn't change the speed of the song. Whether you're playing at 1 speed or sonic speed, you're performing the same actions. It's just that the notes fly faster towards the edges as you turn it up. So what is the purpose of changing your note speed, and why does it matter at all in Maimai? Of course, note speed is a thing in other rhythm games, but I'm just focusing on Maimai. Once again, I asked my Discord what they thought 1 week before recording this video. So if you want to be a part of that, make sure to join my Discord. Link in description, comments. So I'm gonna give my opinion on this, and then I'm going to go through what they thought. This time around, I don't actually have a lot to say. This will mostly be focused on what my Discord has to say about it. So why is note speed important? So someone who doesn't know any better might think, whoa, I don't want things to be faster. I want things to be slower so I can react to it. The fast speeds are for the pro people, okay? That's a very common misconception about note speed. What note speed actually does is vary the distance between each note. Let's take like 1 speed for example. It's very slow. The game can fit many more notes in the screen as it approaches the judgment line. So what that means is that the game becomes very dense with notes. So you will see a lot of notes compared to a higher speed. Now let's take 4.5 speed for example. You can see the distance between the notes getting slightly longer, so the chart becomes less dense. So why is density important? In general, the less dense the chart, the easier it is to see when to hit a note and which note you actually need to hit. In 1 speed, since the notes are very dense, it's very hard to tell the rhythm of the note, like when exactly to hit the note, and also which note you actually have to hit. Because they're so close together, you could get one note confused for the other. I'd like you to think about note speed less as the speed of the notes, even though that is technically what it is, but more like adjusting the density of the chart. And of course, if you pick something like 7 speed, the space between the notes become even further, the density goes down, and then it becomes even more clear both the rhythm and which note to hit. So now that we've established what note speed is, I'd like to tackle the question of whether what note speed you play at actually affects how well you play. So on first glance, after what I just said, it seems like turning up the note speed will decrease the density of the chart, which will increase readability. Now that is partly true, but there's also a trade-off, which is you still have to react to the notes. When you're doing things like sight reading or playing a chart you're not so familiar with, you will have to rely on your reaction time a lot more than someone who is reading at a slower speed. So essentially, the lower your note speed, the more reading capabilities that you need, but the less reaction time that you need. Whereas the higher your note speed, the more reaction time capabilities that you need, but the need for your reading capabilities is a lot less. Most people fall somewhere in the middle, which is why you kind of see like a normal distribution with the top being around like 7 speed, and then about 95% of people fall between about like 6.5 speed and maybe 8.5 speed. So anyway, that's just my opinion. Let's see what my Discord thinks. I'm sorry if you answered and I didn't go through your answer. It's just cause there's a lot. Now the first one I'd like to go through is by Blueberry, because he linked a survey in the Korean Maimai community that happened a couple of months ago, consisting of 104 participants. If we look at the graph that he put, this is in Korean of course. The one on the left is tap speed, and the part on the right is touch speed. You can see it does kind of form a normal distribution like I said, with 7 being the most popular. Oh yeah, I did forget to mention that in my touch speed and tap speed are completely different things. The speed at which the touch appears is different to the speed at which the note appears. Well, you can like vary it. I think what I said kind of applies to the touch notes also. Although I will say from experience, having a lower touch speed compared to your tap speed kind of helps a little bit, but that's just my experience. Don't take that as gospel, okay? But it seems from this survey, 36.6% had a different tap and touch speed, and people usually had faster touch speed than tap speed. Wait, that's completely different to what I said, which is having your tap speed faster than your touch speed. That's interesting. Jules says, with glasses 8.5 to 9, without 7.75 to 8. That's funny that this person has different speeds for whether they have glasses or not. I don't really know how glasses affects gameplay, so that's quite interesting. Astolfo, this person is number 1 in Philippines, and he says he reads at 6.5 to 6.75. It is my preference and I have difficulty reading higher note speed. I change it depending on the song, and if it's 14 and below I do 6.5, it's 14 plus and above I do 6.75. So you see how he kind of ups the speed just a little bit for harder stuff, because harder stuff usually has more notes and that makes the chart more dense. Note speed is important to gameplay and also a preference. If you play at like 7.5 but keep missing or have a lot of grades, maybe just experiment with the speed to get the right timing. Yeah, I forgot to say actually, yeah, note speed is, in my opinion, like 99% preference. It's just whether you prefer denser or less dense charts, and whether you're good at reacting or not as good at reacting to notes. Within the extremes, for example like 1 speed and sonic speed, it's kind of like unplayable, but within a certain range, maybe 5 to like 9 it seems. It seems like people play within 5 to 9 reasonably well. As in there's no significant difference in skill between someone who plays at 5, someone who plays at 9. It's mostly preference in my opinion. But some might say otherwise. Mutsumi says, I play on 8.5, sometimes 8.75. As for how important it is to gameplay, I definitely think it's mostly a preference. I got called crazy for playing at such a high speed. Since changing to 8.5, my accuracy overall is much better. Don't judge people based on their note speed, come on. Although I will say, when you approach higher note speeds, like 8.5 and above, you tend to hit the buttons harder because you're reacting to the notes. You tend to like do that. So just be wary of that. They bring up a good point, which is adjusting. Don't be afraid to adjust your note speed. I know people who play from a range of like 6.5 to 8.5. You can't really tell what your preference is before trying everything. Just try every note speed. See which one fits you best. HoYu10 says 7.5 is my main speed. I changed to 6.5 to 7 for sight reading and slower / less dense charts, and 8 to 8.5 for faster / denser charts. That's pretty much what I said. Higher speeds for more dense charts because you want to make it less dense. Having a higher or lower note speed may wreck accuracy. This is where I disagree a little bit. I think accuracy, it's only wrecked by note speed when you're not used to the note speed. If you've been playing 6.5 for like 3 years and you go to like 8, it's definitely gonna affect your accuracy. But like if you're used to 6.5, that's just gonna be your best accuracy. It's within the note speed that you're used to. Alright, Tenchi says, what note speed do you play and why? I might be one of those few who plays in varying note speed. There you go. Range mostly from 7.25 to 8, and there's his list of preferences. Do you think note speed is important to gameplay or just preference? Mostly preference, though I would argue that for newbies, it's better for them to start low and gradually go up time to time. That's a great point actually. When you're a new player, you do want to slowly go up in note speed rather than jump all the way to like 6 or 7. However, that kind of only encompasses maybe like the first couple of months of playing. After that, it's like completely negligible whether you have a high or low note speed. It's just the one that you practice the most. Melody says 7.75, 7.75 vibes 3 times yes, no. Okay, I don't even know what that's responding to. Alright, Sense says those are his preferences for speed. I think note speed just depends on preference. Like heck, if you're stuck with 2 speed from the beginning of your journey, I don't think it matters as long as you enjoy playing it like that. It's just a game. I mean, I don't really like the it's just a game thing, because like people are serious about the game. So I do think talking about it seriously and taking it seriously is a good exercise. Bull Untorsionist says, nice name. Only occasions where I change note speed is when I want to troll with 1 speed or Sonic, fair enough. They say tweaking the note speed for different BPM is not very important, 100% agree. Learning how to read the charts and doing techniques seems more important, 100%. Note speed is really not your issue. Yeah, I think changing note speed to make a chart easier only works in terms of getting through mind block, because it it just changes how you read the chart slightly. So it forces your brain to work slightly differently as you're reading the chart. But in terms of like helping you understand patterns, like I don't think it helps too much. LMVA says 1. Wow, incredible. HOHO says, Maimai 6.5 both taps and touch. I tend to be on the slower side of scroll speed than average for easier acking. Yeah, I mean, talking about act, some people find getting good act easier on higher speeds and some people find it easier on lower speed. It's all based on how you work as a player. Okay, this is a good point. If you have good internal rhythm, then slower speed is probably better for you. But if you're better at reacting to notes and getting the accuracy that way, then high speed is for you. XK OR04 says, I went from 6 to 6.5. Yup. The guys out there who can read charts in speed 9 or 10. And there are many people who are very good with at the game with speed 4.5. Exactly, that's an even higher range than I thought actually. 4.5 is very slow and 9 to 10 is very, very fast. It goes to show that it's like mostly preference. Daisuke says, one thing to note is that being used to the new speed you set doesn't come immediately. Yeah, in the process of switching speeds, you're always going to be more used to the one that you played before. Don't feel discouraged when you switch note speeds and you realize that you're getting worse scores. It's just part of the process of learning the note speed. There's also the late/good to consider and whether you play the game looking at the notes versus listening to the music. That's exactly what I was talking about in terms of having internal rhythm and reacting to the notes. Daisuke puts it probably better. He puts it like looking at the notes, which is reacting to the notes and hitting it, versus listening to the music, which is an internal sense of rhythm. Once again, looking at the notes and reacting to it is more facilitated by higher speeds, and then listening to the music, aka having an internal sense of rhythm, is more facilitated by slower speeds. Act D says, I saw a lot of players around 12 to 13k using a very high speed like 8.0 or higher. And I think that's pretty bad because sure they use 8 speed because they hit too many fast, but too high of a speed makes them really hard to read and master the chart. In my opinion, it's fine. If you're 12 to 13k, you're still, you know, kind of getting the hang of the game, right? Whether you use 8 or 7 or 6, it's just kind of training you to get used to that specific setting that you use. Right now, if you're 12 to 13k and you're playing 8 speed, you're probably gonna get pretty bad accuracy, but that's fine. I think if you're willing to stick with it and you're willing to improve with 8 speed, then I think that's completely fine. It's more for the long term. Even though in the moment you might be getting worse scores than if you would be using like 6 or 7. I see a lot of people agreeing that it's mostly preference, which is good. That means I'm not going insane. We're seeing a lot of people who either never ever change their speed or change your speed depending on the chart. That's also something you can consider, whether you want to change your speed often or whether you just want to stick with one. Sticking with one single speed probably streamlines your learning of charts a bit more than if you vary your note speed a lot. You kind of have to get used to the new note speed every time you change it. Whereas sticking to a single note speed might mean you don't have to concentrate on the note speed at all and you can focus all of your attention on learning the chart. Nova Crack says, yep, those are the preferences and they say note speed are purely preference 100% and it will make your learning process of reading slightly different. Yeah, so it's like note speed affects how you perceive the game, but in the end, you will improve the same. However, you do learn the game slightly differently. Usually, or probably even most of the time, when you see too many fast or late, the first thing you do is adjust note speed. This thing is very common among players in the beginner to intermediate level of the game, since they don't have a proper sense of rhythm. That is a really good point. The flip side of note speed being completely preference is that you shouldn't be changing your note speed to fix your accuracy. Accuracy is its own skill. Using note speed as a crutch to learn accuracy maybe will work in the short term, but it wouldn't improve your accuracy in the long term. And I will even argue it just doesn't improve your accuracy at all. My opinion is that if you see you're hitting way too fast, I don't think your first reaction should be changing your offset or like changing your note speed. I think fixing your internal accuracy is so much more important than using external cues to fix it. Deshmot says this is their preferences for note speed. Of course, note speed depends on preference, yep. Usually though, I find that people with experience in other rhythm games tend to have a higher note speed. Perhaps. Although I feel like a lot of pros that play other rhythm games also have really low note speed, so I'm not so sure about that. Mooncake Puff says, I do think it's important to tweak if you're getting too many fast or lates before changing offset. Although I did say that you should try and fix your accuracy before changing note speed, I think being a bit reactive to if you constantly get too many fasts and you cannot change it, then definitely consider changing your note speed or your offset. 8 note speed, 7 note speed, 5.5 to 5.75. That is slow. Honestly, I feel like to me, reading slower is so much harder than reading fast, but that's just my opinion. Gravity Z says, I also personally feel like I'm one of the fewer examples with lower reading speeds, as I tend to listen to the song more and interpret the gimmicks and patterns of the song and memorize stuff that way. In comparison to higher speed players, I find that those players are mainly reaction-based players, hence why they will mostly keep on upping their speed because they score too many fasts. Yeah, that reflects what I said also. People who read slower have to internalize the patterns and the rhythm a lot more than higher speed players. Hako says, I'm currently playing 6.5, is the best for aiming, DX scores and sight reading. I've seen people using 4 and getting triple S on mid 14s, and some people using 9 and getting a lot of god plates. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, but yeah, it goes to show that scroll speed is like pretty much mostly preference. Alright. That's what my Discord thinks. Bit of a simple video today. Next video, I have big plans, so stay tuned. Yeah, join my Discord, subscribe, everything, I don't know.